Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Eleanor Hawkins, and welcome to Telestory Time. This is a very special day. It is Telestory Time's 54th birthday, and we're celebrating a birthday party here in the New Bern Craven County Public Library in the mini theater in the Eleanor Hawkins Children's Room. And we're going to have very special guests for you to meet in just a few minutes. Boys and girls, we're glad that you have joined us in our birthday party, and we have some Mother Goose characters right here who have stepped out of the book. And here we have Old Mother Hubbard.
Good morning. Old Mother Hubbard went to her cupboard to fetch her poor dog a bone. When she got there, the cupboard was bare, and then the poor dog had none.
And look who we have next. We have Humpty Dumpty himself.
Good morning, Mrs. Hawkins.
Good morning.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
Oh, Humpty, do be careful on the steps.
I will. Thank you, Mrs. Hawkins.
And look who we have here. Mary had a little lamb.
Good morning, Mrs. Hawkins.
Good morning.
This little Bo Peep lost her sheep and didn't know where to find them. Leave them alone. They'll come home wagging their tails behind them.
Oh, thank you, little Bo Peep. And here we have Pam Jenkins, our children's librarian here at the New Bern Library. And you know, Pam has been here for a number of years doing an outstanding job with all of her staff. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you, and good morning, Miss Eleanor. And on behalf of all 10 libraries and the Craven, Pamlico, Carteret Regional Library System, we want to wish Telestory Time a very happy 54-year birthday.
Thank you so much, Pam. This is a giant birthday card. Did you notice how big it is, boys and girls? Thank you so much. And now I see we have Cassandra Hutsacker, who is here, and she is the New Bern Craven County Public Library librarian.
Good morning, Miss Eleanor, and happy 54th birthday to Telestory Time. I'm so happy that we can celebrate here at the library.
Thank you. And look, I see we have our regional director of the Craven, Pamlico, Carteret Regional Library System here with us.
Good morning, Miss Eleanor, and happy 54th birthday to Telestory Time. You know, the most important role of public libraries is to introduce small children to books and reading at an early age, and you do a marvelous job.
Oh, thank you, Susan. And this is Susan Simpson.
And I have a special guest today, too. I have brought with us Mr. Ben Bowditch. He is the chair of the CPC Regional Library Board of Trustees, and he's also recently been awarded the Trustee of the Year Award by the North Carolina Public Library Directors Association.
And that's a real treat because he's the first one.
He is, and the award is not often given out to trustees.
No.
It's a real pleasure to have him here today.
The silk flowers will grace your table.
Oh, thank you. This makes our party very special. Thank you.
And thank you for Telestory.
Thank you. And now, boys and girls, it's time for me to read our first story. And I have it right here beside me. Boys and girls, I'm going to read Granny Blake and Her Wonderful Cake. Once upon a time, there was an old woman who baked good cakes to sell. From morning till night, her little house was filled with wonderful smells. Any kind of cake a body could name, Granny Bake could bake. And all over town, the mothers and fathers ordered cakes from Granny Blake. Birthday cakes for the girls and boys, welcome cakes for the new neighbors, wedding cakes for the brides. And now that with all these orders coming in, you might think that Granny Blake could see lots of folks and eat lots of cake. But no, indeed. What with the measuring and the mixing and the beating and the baking, Granny Blake never had a minute nor a crumb to herself. Not even just before her own birthday, which she didn't once think of. Take a day off, said the mothers and fathers when they came in for their cakes. Get someone to help. But Granny Blake smiled and shook her head. Everyone is too busy, she said. And she went right on with her measuring and her mixing. Well, take a week off, said the children when they came to clean out the bowls. Tell people no. But Granny Blake just shook her head. You'll not hear no from Granny Blake, for I like folks and folks like cake. And she went right on with her beating and her baking. Now this is a fine how do you do, everyone said. Too busy to remember her own birthday? Too busy to even make herself a cake? All over town they started to whisper, do you suppose? Why not? Well, let's do it. Now, Granny Blake, can you bake us a cake big enough for the whole town? Well, yes, I just will, smiled Granny Blake, who never said no to a single soul. Only how can I ever measure such a great cake? And how shall I ever mix it and beat it and bake it? And wherever shall I put it when it's done? I do declare I do not know. But everybody else knew, because first the boys and girls came running with their biggest sand pails to help with all the measuring. And next, the new neighbors brought a big mixer to help with all the mixing and the beating. And after that, to help with the baking, everyone in town popped a pan of batter into their own ovens. As soon as the cakes were baked, the town band fitted them all together on the bandstand right in the middle of the park. And last of all, Granny Blake frosted it. The yummiest, the biggest, the most wonderful cake anyone had ever seen. There, she said, as pleased as she could be. Now, what do you want me to say? Happy birthday, everyone shouted. Happy birthday, wrote Granny Blake with the decorating tube. Happy birthday who? Oh, happy birthday to you, everybody sang. And many, many happy returns of the day. Granny Blake just smiled and smiled. When the candles were lighted, she blew them out all in one puff. Oh, the town band started playing when she opened her presents. They played right through the serving of refreshments, which were gallons of ice cream, barrels of punch, and of course, plate after plate of Granny Blake's wonderful birthday cake. Boys and girls, that's our story now, and please stay tuned for the rest of our birthday party. We'll be back in just a moment. And now, boys and girls, our children's librarian Pam and I are going to show you the history of Telestory Time through our album. Telestory Time really originated on WFMY TV2 in Greensboro, North Carolina. And we started back in June the 24th, 1952. Now that's 66 years ago, a long time ago. And this is our first program back then. And then when the TV station WNBE TV 12 opened in New Bern in 1963, Telestory Time started on December the 6th. And here we are with the with our backdrop, and you can see the old woman who lived in the shoe. And then, boys and girls, this is when we received a castle set, and you can see I'm sitting in front of the gates. And this was WNBE, Channel 12, ABC. And here we are with the same thing, sitting in front of the palace gates. And then this was one of our very first shows, and these boys and girls are now grandmothers, and it's been that long ago. And then, boys and girls, here we have another one with WCTI TV 12. And this was a very special birthday party. We had Alice in Wonderland. And right over here, one place right here, is Pam, and she happens to be Alice. And then here's another special program, and you see we always had special guests, lots of balloons and cake. And then this time we had our birthday party, and there we had a live Christmas tree, a real person dressed up. And boys and girls, on over here, we even had a gingerbread house. And here my devoted husband had sent me roses for that birthday party. And here we celebrated 25 years, and this was a special, a really special article that the Sun Journal ran. And then here we have a special birthday, and right here this happens to be a little girl that grew up, and her name was, I'm losing it, I'm 90 years old, but she is living in Cove City right now and has children, and this is Robin Benninghoff, and then this little girl is Catherine. And my name came, it's Hope McCoy. Sorry about that, Hope. And boys and girls, this is a very special one. I want you to look very carefully because you see this mural, it's right here in our mini theater, here at the library. And right here is Willie Taglieri, and he did this beautiful mural all around our mini theater with all the nursery rhyme characters and all our fairy tale specials, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, and everyone, and we had him special. We're very proud of our mini theater here in New Bern. And then in Carteret County, they had a bi-weekly newspaper called This Week, and they did a very special article on Telestory Time, Behind the Golden Door. And then, boys and girls, I see this happens to be our 30th birthday, and we have, I do see Carolyn Stevens here, and she was our program director and came to all of our birthday parties. And boys and girls, this is when we became 35, and the Sun Journal did another special article. And here we have the 38th birthday party. And then we have the balloons and Humpty Dumpty, and some of our nursery rhyme characters were there. And over here, I have a special photograph because on our 38th birthday, my granddaughter, Leslie Hawkins, was a special guest. I'm proud of that. And then here's when we went to high definition. And can't you see the difference? Everything is so clear and so perfect. And this is our first set then we had when we went to high definition on Channel 12. And here, boys and girls, is our 48th birthday. And then here is the big day, the happy 50th birthday, Telestory Time. And boys and girls, this was a very special day, because the Sun Journal ran an article on it on Sunday, and that's very special, a Sunday edition. And here we are with a big story. And it was a big day because here we have Mayor Dana Outlaw of New Bern presenting us a certificate announcing that that day was the Eleanor Hawkins Telestory Time Day. A big honor indeed, and a surprise. And the last picture I want to show you is this one. This is the 50th birthday, and here we have all the people coming, and here we have my son and his wife Kelly right here celebrating our wonderful 50th birthday Boys and girls, we're looking forward to next year when we'll celebrate our 55th birthday, and we'll look forward to seeing you all then. And so now stay tuned, and we have special guests to introduce you to, children that are very good listeners here at the public library. Stay tuned. And now, boys and girls, I want you to meet our special children guests that we have today. And right over here we have a little girl, and what is your name?
Ariella.
Ariella. That's a pretty name. And how old are you?
5.
5 years old. And tell me your very favorite story.
Ariel.
Ariel. That is part of Little Mermaid, isn't it? Well, we're glad you're here today. And what is your name?
Weston.
You're Weston. And Weston, how old are you?
4.
4 years old. Now tell me your favorite story.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Little Red Riding Hood. And we always are anxious for the wolf to scare us. Doesn't he scare you? Not
I
my-
watched it before and I didn't get scared.
And tell me your name, little girl.
Mary Ella.
Mary Ellen. And how old are you?
5.
5 years old. Tell me your favorite story.
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. Well, I like that story too. And tell me your name.
Sophia.
Sophia. Sophia, how old are you?
4.
4 years old. And what is your favorite story?
Cinderella.
Cinderella. You know you chose my favorite story. Thank you. And now tell me your name.
Mitchell.
Mitchell. How old are you, Mitchell?
5.
5 years old. And tell me your favorite story. We're learning favorite stories from everybody.
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan. One of my favorites too. And here's a little girl right over here, and tell me your favorite story.
Humpty Dumpty.
Tell me your name. I missed it.
Eden.
Your name is Eden. And tell me, how old are you?
Boys.
4 years old. And what is your favorite story?
Humpty Dumpty.
Humpty Dumpty. And Humpty Dumpty was here today. Well, that was very good. And now, boys and girls, I want you to be good listeners because I'm going to read you the story. The story is The Boy Who Wanted to Be a Fish. One day, it was Amby's birthday. His mother said, "Amby, today you can do anything you want to do because it is your birthday." She said, "Do you want to go to the zoo and look at the animals?" Amby said, "No." So his mother said, "Do you want to have a picnic?" And Amby said, "No." And his mother said, "Well, do you want to fly a kite?" Amby said, "No." Then Amby's mother said, "Well, now there must be something you want to do." And Amby said, "Well, I want to be a fish." But Amby's mother said he couldn't be a fish, even if it were his birthday. She said he could do anything else he wanted to do. And Amby said, "I want to be a fish, I want to be a fish, I want to be a fish." So Amby's mother called his sister Susie and said, Take Amby down to Mr. Buzzle's drugstore. Get him an ice cream cone. Well, get him 2 ice cream cones. Then maybe he will not want to be a fish. But Amby would not walk down to the drugstore because he said fishes do not walk. Today is my birthday, and today I can do anything I want to do, and I want to be a fish. So Susie lifted Amby into his wagon because Amby would not walk. And Susie pulled the wagon toward Mr. Buzzle's drugstore. Now, on the way to the drugstore, they met Mr. Houlihan, the policeman. And Mr. Houlihan said, "Hello, Amby." But Amby would not say hello because fishes do not talk. Amby just stuck his lips way out, the way fishes do. "Well, now, what's the matter with him?" Mr. Houlihan asked. And Susie said, "Well, we're having a little trouble with him. He wants to be a fish." "Oh ho," Mr. Houlihan said, "a fish is it? Amby, you don't want to be a fish." Mr. Houlihan said, "If you were a fish, you'd be just a little fish, and a big fish would come and swallow you. That's the way fishes do." But Amby said, "I'd get away. I want to be a fish." Susie pulled the wagon on toward the drugstore, but before they got to the drugstore, they met Mr. Grove, the milkman. Mr. Grove said, "Hello, Amby." But Amby would not say hello because fishes do not talk. Amby just stuck his lips way out the way fishes do. "Is there something wrong with Amby?" Mr. Grove asked. Well, Susie told him he wants to be a fish. Mr. Grove said, "Oh no, Amby, you don't want to be a fish. If you were a fish, someone would come along with a hook and catch you." Susie pulled the wagon on toward the drugstore, and they met Mrs. Gilly, who was walking her dog. And Susie said, "Mrs. Gilly, I don't know what we'll do about Amby. He wants to be a fish." Mrs. Gilly said, "Oh no, Amby, not a fish. You'd have to live with crabs and lobsters and alligators if you were a fish." Amby said, "I like crabs, I like lobsters, and I like alligators. I want to be a fish." So Susie took Amby on toward the drugstore, and they met Miss Jones, Susie's teacher. "Miss Jones," Susie said, "what can I do about Amby? He wants to be a fish." "A fish?" Miss Jones says, "Oh no, Amby, you don't want to be a fish. You wouldn't have any Christmas. You wouldn't have any Thanksgiving. You wouldn't have any birthday cake." "Oh yes, I would," said Amby. "I'd have a fish Christmas. I'd have a fish Thanksgiving, and I'd have a fish birthday cake. I want to be a fish." Susie took Amby on to Mr. Buzzle's drugstore, and Susie said to Mr. Buzzle, "I want 2 ice cream cones for Amby, but I don't know if he'll eat them or not because he wants to be a fish." Mr. Buzzle said, "Oh, he wants to be a fish? Well, all right. If that's what he wants, let him be a fish." Amby was surprised. Oh, he stuck his lips way out the way fishes do, and he looked very hard at Mr. Buzzle. Then Mr. Buzzle said, "Well, the river is right back of my store. We'll take Amby out there, and we'll put him in the water, and he can be a fish." So Mr. Buzzle took Amby out to the river. He lifted Amby out over the water, and he said, "Goodbye, Amby. I hope you'll be happy when you're a fish." And Mr. Buzzle started to put Amby down into the water. The water was cold and the water was wet. It looked dark down under the water. Amby said, Hey, wait. I don't want to go into the water." "Why, Amby," Mr. Buzzle said, "I'm surprised. You want to be a fish. Fishes live in the water. You cannot be a fish unless you go into the water." But Amby said, "I don't want to go in the water." Well, Mr. Buzzle said, "You have to go in the water, Amby, because you want to be a fish." And then Amby said, "Well, maybe I don't want to be a fish. I guess I want to be a boy. I want to be a boy with 2 ice cream cones, a pink one and a brown one." Then Mr. Buzzle said, "Oh, you want to be a boy? Well, that's different. So Mr. Buzzle took Amby back to the drugstore and he gave him 2 ice cream cones, a pink one and a brown one. Then Amby went home and found a beautiful birthday cake with 4 lighted candles. And then Amby blew out all 4 candles with 1 puff. And you know, boys and girls, that how it was, that is why Amby is not a fish. And you were very good listeners. And now stay tuned, boys and girls, and we'll be back in just a moment with a big birthday cake. Stay tuned. And boys and girls, look what Derek Edwards, our assistant sales out of WCTI TV 12, brought us, a Cinderella birthday cake. Isn't it beautiful? Cinderella and her coach, and 9 candles signifying 5 and 4 for 54th birthday here at the Mini Theater. And now I want all of us to think real hard of a good wish that we would like to come true. And you know, if we blow out all the candles, our wish will come true. So let's all make a wish real quickly and think real hard. What is your wish? And we'll talk about that later, okay? Let's all make our wish. And now can we all blow real hard and blow out the candles? It will take a while for our wish to come true because we have a little breeze in here and they don't want to go out. Help me, Derek. They will come true, and guess what? It will take a day for it to come true. And now, boys and girls, I see it's time for us to close our book of stories and our big birthday party today here in the Mini Theater in the New Bern, Craven County Public Library. And boys and girls, be sure and tune in next week when we have Telestory time. Until then, this is Eleanor Hawkins saying bye-bye and happy birthday to all.